All right, a name you haven't heard in a little while, and I'm sure some of you, because I've seen some of you in the comments. Peter Benavente, somebody told me that I was letting him control my channel. No, the motherfucker, I have not. It's ridiculous. Anyways, all right, Collateral. Written and directed by Michael Mann. Yeah, it's not a horror movie. I'll probably get no fucking views on this except for by Peter. But you know what? I love this movie. I will also love to cover like Heat and anything else. Yeah. Anyways, so we got Vincent and Max here. This is 16 years old now, which was actually the first movie. So this movie's kind of special to me because it's the first movie I saw when I moved to Sedona. I saw it with my father, so it's kind of special. It was like my introduction. It was like it was the first film I went to see, and I was like, wow, what a fantastic film! What a Michael Mann film! Like this guy just makes love to Los Angeles in these movies. Just these like long sweeping shots of LA. There's so many like intimate shots of the city. Just the way that you can always tell you're watching a Michael Mann film. There's something very unique in particular to his style. And this is just such a good film. Like, I always say that people always claim to hate Tom Cruise, but then almost none of them can name even a single Tom Cruise movie that they don't like or they think is bad. They're always, oh, fucking Tom Cruise, he's the worst. And I'm like, oh yeah? Like, what movies don't you like of his? And they like sit there and like, I don't know. And I'm like, oh, did you see this? And they're like, oh, that was great. And did you see this? And yeah, that was great. Did you see this? Yeah, it was great. So you hate Tom Cruise? Yeah, I fucking hate him. I'm like, no, you hate Tom Cruise, the person, because you think he's all weird with his Scientology and whatever. But the actual like actor, like up until The Mummy, he'd never made a bad film. To me, he'd never made a film that I didn't like, and I'd seen everything he'd ever done. I think there was maybe one or two movies I hadn't seen. But regardless, I'd seen almost everything that guy had ever done. And every time everybody attacks him, I'm like, name a bad movie. Up until The Mummy, what was it? Fucking Last Samurai is amazing. Fucking Vanilla Sky, Minority Report. You go down the list, dude. Even all the sci-fi shit that he makes, even if it's not amazing, they're still really good. Oblivion, fucking Edge of Tomorrow. I even like War of the Worlds a lot. I know some people hate it, but so yeah, it's just crazy, man. He gets such shit. But anyway, so you got Jamie Foxx in here as well. This was right as Jamie Foxx was kind of taking on more serious roles. I think he did Ray right around this time, if I remember correctly. But Jamie Foxx for me will always be Django, because that's my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie, and he's just fantastic in it. And he does play very nerdy in this. Like his role as Max is very well done, because it's funny too, because his character in this kind of reminds me a lot of Max from Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2. His name is also Max in that movie as it is in this movie, and he's kind of similar-ish, except for he's nowhere near as shitty with people. It's just that dorky kind of person that everyone looks past and doesn't really have a life to his own. Like, he doesn't really have anything to his life besides like his work. So it's a pretty similar character. And as I said, it's both named Max. So I thought that was kind of ironic. Jason Statham does the handoff in the opening to Tom Cruise in this, or Vincent, and he's only in it for like, that's it, for like 5 seconds. You've also got Mark Ruffalo in this movie, who plays this like, he's got like the slick back, freaking Chicano type of look in this. I don't know if he's like trying to play that, but yeah, that's the style he's got going on in here. At first I thought he was going to be like all like choloed out or something, and that's kind of the way he looks, but he doesn't really act like that. He just kind of has that appearance. Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that it's movies like this that kind of set, now of course I wasn't a kid when I saw this, but it's movies like this that set up that false expectations of humans to me. like the dialogue in this movie is so slick. People are so interesting. They're so thought-provoking. They feel like they have such substance to the things they say. They're so slick and smooth with like the way they talk. Like when Max is talking with Jada Pinkett's character, he's so smooth about everything he says. He doesn't stumble over everything. Everything could be like on a fucking bumper sticker, you know, like, and that's great. That's how dialogue should be in film. We're there to see people at their very best at all times. I'm fine with it. It's just, you see stuff like this and it's just like, meeting a chick isn't like that. I mean, meeting people isn't like that. Like, no one's clever like that. No one's fast-witted like that. No one's a smooth talker like that. But it's great to watch on film. It's just, yeah, it's like perfection, kind of, condensed down into like a moment. Like in a week, we probably don't even have that much interesting to say, or a month. And it's like condensed all down into like a sequence of just an interaction between two people. And I love that stuff. So, but yeah, the way he talks to her, I actually buy their relationship in this. I buy her interest in him, even though he's a cabbie and she's some hotshot, attorney that works at some big firm and is, handling this big case. This is a guy who like paid attention to her, who actually talked to her, who saw her for not what she was, but who she was. And I totally buy that in this film. Like there's other films where I would be like, I don't know, man, do I buy this bullshit? No, I totally do in this. Like, he's very smooth, even though he's geeky in certain ways. He's not like a man's man. I buy it. I like their interaction. I like how he is kind of arrogant. He's not arrogant. He's never arrogant. Because he has this great line throughout the movie where he predicts these times, and then they're like, "Oh, you're great," and he's like, "I just got lucky with the lights. He's very modest, so he's not cocky or arrogant at all, but he's very confident, should I say? There's a difference between confidence and arrogance, and he's like, "Oh, we'll take this," and he's like, "Oh, we'll be there in 7 minutes," and she's like, "Or what?" And he's like, "Well, the ride's on me." And all this stuff, that's so good. And then I actually had a discrepancy towards the end, but then they kind of resolved it within their own dialogue, which is great because it's so coincidental that Vincent is picked up right in front of her joint, which is the last person he comes to kill. And it's like this big moment of like, oh my God, he's going to kill the girl. And it's like, oh, how convenient. And I'm like, well, why didn't he kill her right then and there? And it's like, because she's so high profile. He was just, and they say it in the movie. He's like, oh, he was casing your building. Like he was checking everything out, like to figure out how to come kill you later. Like, I'm gonna make her the last one because this is gonna get the most attention. This is what's gonna bring the cops in. This is what's gonna, I gotta go kill all these other people, but I'm gonna start by understanding her layout because she's in the most fortified building. So it makes perfect sense, and it's, this serendipitous thing where he just so happens to grab that cab, and he's probably looking at her. He probably saw her, and shit, he might have even like picked Vincent's cab. Or Max's cab, although he does walk away from it, so I'm not sure that holds weight. But regardless, he does go and he taps on the top, and he's just, I'm sure he saw her. So he's like, I'm going to go with this guy. So I think it all makes sense. Like, it seems very convenient at the end, and then when they say that stuff, I'm like, oh, it makes sense. I get it. It's coincidental, but it's not like outrageously coincidental to me. He gets her phone number. She gives it to him. Great stuff. You can even see this just like shocked, like, holy shit, like, did I just really pull this off? Like, why is this girl giving this to me? But he's still confident. He's still smooth. I like that. I like Max a whole lot. Then we've got Tom Cruise's Vincent's character, who has this like gray hair. I guess I had read in the trivia that Michael Mann wanted Tom Cruise's character to be a guy that would just blend in New York City and no one would ever notice him. So he actually had him prep by like delivering packages as like a UPS driver, I want to say is what it was, something along those lines. And he had to do it and not be recognized as Tom Cruise. And I guess he was able to pull it off. But yeah, that's the idea behind his character. And I like that the kind of they're very similar in a lot of ways, Vincent and Max, and I think that's why they kind of connect very quickly, and their dialogue is very good between each other because they both can sense that they're very principled and reliable people, like totally opposite ends of the spectrum in morality, obviously, but Max is very attention to detail oriented. Like he cleans his cab. He has this very strict plan in his mind, which I love that Vincent calls him out for later. Like, you're that guy. Because at first he's like, yeah, you're a doer, you're not a talker. And I can see that about you. Like, you're not here to just talk shit. Like, you want to do this stuff. But then he kind of rags on him later. Like, you're never going to do anything. You're not going to do shit. Like, you would have done it by now. It does not take 12 years to put a fucking, a down payment on a Crown Royal or whatever. Isn't that what it was called? Or is that the alcohol? Whatever the hell it was. A Town Royal? Whatever. Doesn't matter. But yeah, oh man, it's just such great dialogue, such good stuff here. The boss confrontation, when the guy breaks his fucking window and all that, and he calls in. Although I guess I should mention the shootout between him and the two thugs. Although I don't really understand this scene because there were 4 guys that walked past, and now there's only 2. I guess they ran off before. I don't know. Whatever it is, these are the kinds of guys where I'm like, fucking kill him. Like, pretty much everybody in this movie, I didn't really have any issue with Vincent killing until he went after the attorney. Because for me, the attorney wasn't even relevant. He killed all the witnesses. So what case does she have? It's just principle at that point? Like, well, she's got the case against us. Like, they're just going to hire another lawyer. And they're just going to try to, like, they're not going to be able to do anything because there's no witnesses. So going after the lawyer for me seems overkill. But they're just tying up any loose end. So, like, I can buy it, but at the same time, it just seems pointless. And she really has done nothing wrong. Now, all these other guys, they seemingly are not good people. They're rats, and they're freaking, hustlers, and they're, whoever the hell these guys are, they're not good guys. And then all the guys that he, like, kills in the nightclub, except for Mark Ruffalo's character, too. He doesn't deserve it either. But there's a lot, but they're cops, and they're, and he's a hitman. I mean, how many movies have we watched where we root for the hitman and he's killing cops? That happens. Although this movie's more realistic than some of those are, but regardless. Vincent, I don't really feel like is a villain. He's portrayed as the villain. In how many Tom Cruise movies is Tom Cruise a villain? In Tropic Thunder? He's not even in a Tom Cruise movie, but he's a villain in that. What else? I mean, very little. I can't even think of anything off the top of my head. I mean, there's like villainous areas. I guess in like Magnolia, he's kind of a villain, which is like probably my favorite Tom Cruise performance. I love Magnolia. I could talk about that movie way too long. But anyway, he's just such a great villain. He's such a great villain because he's so likable. He's so relatable. He's so psycho but composed. He's perfect as this character, man. Just such great casting, such a great performance by Cruise. Even though Cruise does feel similar in a lot of shit, I don't care. It always feels somewhat different to me. It's like he's able to kind of get that difference out of it, but I love him. I love him in film. Anyway, that confrontation that they have on the call with the boss when he's like, you shove this car up his ass, shove it up your fat ass, all that, and the way he's like, oh man, don't make me say that, all that stuff, that was really funny. And then the cops pull him over, and he's like, don't put me into a corner, These guys, and when they walk up, he's like, this guy has a wedding ring on, he's probably married, he probably has kids at home. Like, don't make him, don't make his kids not have a father or shit like that. It's like, oh my God, it's so brutal to put that shit into his head. But, it's part of his character. And then he gets things done really quickly. And this is kind of interesting, but I guess not really. Just because La La Land is a movie I love so much, he refers to the place as La La Land, as LA is referred to. And then he takes him to a jazz club where he explains jazz to him. Very La La Land. I thought that was interesting. And then they have this jazz moment where Max kind of feels like he's loosening up, and he's talking to this guy about Miles Davis, and he's just like, oh, this is cool. Like, I'm glad that we're on this little trip together. And he's just like, oh, by the way, I'm here to kill you. And he's like, tell me the truth. You were going to kill him no matter what, right? You weren't going to let him go. And you could tell Vincent, like, you know, he's a man of his principle. He's a man of his job. He's a man of his moment. I don't know. Would he have killed him or not? I think he would have. Like, Vincent's there for a job. He's not going to pull out of this until he's done with it. So, leading this guy to believe that he has hope is really fucked up. But at the same time, he's going around and killing people right and left. So, I don't know if I'm going to rely on this guy having much morality to him. But regardless, still kind of fucked up. We find out that Max has been lying to his mom about his limo company. But as he says, and I kind of buy this, I totally get what he's saying here. He's like, she doesn't listen to what I have to say. She barely remembers anything anyway. So when she kind of gets it in her head that I have a limo service, I'm not going to fucking fight her on it. I'm done with it. She doesn't listen to a word I say anyway. So I don't really think that he's lying, but he still does seem to strike a chord in Max where he's like, you could have already had this up and running. You were never going to do shit. Like, if I didn't come into your cab this night, you'd be fucking a cab driver for the rest of your life talking about your dream of island limos forever. Like, you're full of shit. And then he kind of calls him out on his bullshit, you know. Max kind of flips it around on him as well. So, you know, kind of calling him out as a hypocrite and a liar and all this stuff. So, good stuff right there. And then he grabs his briefcase and destroys it. Not really the best move, but it does seem to impress Vincent because he's like, see what else you can do. Let's go get the last two people on this list. And then they have this like bonding talk about their parents together, which is a really great sequence. This is why I'm talking like the best villains always see themselves as the good guy. Like Vincent's very, as I say, he's very principled. He's there, it's a job to him. It's like, these are bad people. I don't even ask what they're doing. I just know they're bad people, and I'm here to fucking kill them. And if someone gives me this job, it's my job. I'm here to do my job. It's not personal to him at all. And he even really likes Max. You can tell he's like, he has a soft spot for Max. He instantly likes the guy. And then we get a little cameo-ish performance here by Javier Bardem. Always great to see him. And then Max goes in there and pretends to be hard, and he really pulls it off pretty damn well. I like that a lot. Smart. And then the nightclub scene is the best scene in this fucking movie. It's just such a great build-up. It's so tense. Everything's converging all in one spot. The guys who are following, the cops, Vincent, Max, they're spread out. Oh, it's so great. It's like John Wick before John Wick. You know, it reminds me of that nightclub scene. I prefer the one in John Wick as an action sequence, but as a piece of a story, like a narrative choice, and the way that it enhances the story and the structure of it and the pacing that it brings to it's fucking beautiful, man. This is a damn masterpiece, I swear. This is such a great fucking film. It just does not get anywhere near enough attention. That's for damn sure. Yeah, they both hit each other with hard truths and observations. That's what I wrote down here. It's so good. It's so good. They're kind of going back and forth. It's like verbal, kung fu. I love that shit. And I like that Max freaks out and flips the car, and then Vincent has to run off because the cops are coming. All that good stuff. And then the cop, he sees that Jada's going to get killed, and then he... the cop sees the body in the trunk, and then he has to grab the gun, and nothing in this movie is overly unbelievable. Like, Max's stuff is believable enough. Like, it's good, man. It's so good. It's so great. Then he calls up to her. He lets her know that she's in the building. It's almost like a rear window moment, and then he runs over there. He breaks into that place. He has his gun. He goes up there. He tries to tell Vincent to stop. He won't. So he's like, "What are you gonna do?" And shoots him right through the face, like instantly. Like, man, he's on the ball there. Like, Yeah, I love that stuff. Max seems to have eagle vision though. The way he's able to like see her and then him upstairs and count the buildings and I don't know. Even though I feel like they kind of have a mess up here where I could be wrong though, but I think she says she's like on some floor and that he's on the other one. And then like when you look at the phone, when he looks at the phone and what line she's on, it's not the floor that she said she was on. Doesn't matter. I think I remember seeing that. It was like so quick. I should have went back and checked, but I think that's what happened. And then then they run off, and then they get in the the train there. I forget what that's called. And I even lived in LA, so that's pathetic. It's an acronym of sorts. Anyways, and he tells this story at the beginning that some guy entered that little monorail and he died and like no one ever noticed. And then they have the big showdown where he yells out, "I do this for a living," which I love. And then it makes sense too, because in that moment you could be like, oh, come on, he beat Vincent, this like sharpshooter, this and that. It just so happens, Max gets lucky. Like the lights go out. It goes dark right in that moment, and Max just does a Hail Mary, just fires directly down the way. How Vincent doesn't hit him at all, it's just, as I said, it's an act of God. It's divine intervention. God put his hand down and he stopped these motherfucking bullets. Vincent missed, and then he went to like reload, and then he goes to reload and he fucks up because he's injured, mortally wounded, and he goes and they have this moment together where he's like kind of just sitting with him, and he's just talking to me. He's just like, "You think anyone will notice? Like my dead body on this train? Like how long will I go unnoticed on this train? Like I'm just yet another statistic. I'm just another story. Like I'm just another nobody." And because of that character that's supposed to just kind of blend in, no one's ever going to notice, like, how long will he ride around on there? It's a beautiful finale finish. Vincent is not a dislikable villain. And it's a very intimate story. It's very much Max and Vincent's story, and everyone else is secondary. It's a film of mostly dialogue in a car between two characters, but fuck is it done beautifully. So thank you to Peter Benavente for letting me talk about this movie. And I'm sure I'll get to some other films that he has soon, but I'm trying to break them up because I'm trying to do all the new movies. I'm trying to do everybody else's movies. I can't just do Peter's films all the time like I was. So in a way, he was controlling my channel a little bit, but that was because I was just kind of like money hungry in the moment. He was paying top dollar for every one of them. So I was like, fuck it, I'll knock them all out. And now I'm trying to space them out so everyone kind of gets their say. So anyways, if you have a recommendation, request, or whatever, you can always check out the Patreon. Let me know. Adios.